This is your moment. This is the generational turning point America has waited for since 1979, and since the rudderless wars of hubris, my generation, our generation, endured. Don't listen to the noise. Just stay focused. Our commander-in-chief is steady at the wheel.
The night sky over the Strait of Hormuz lit up with the roar of heavy transport aircraft as the 101st Airborne Division launched one of the most audacious lightning strikes of the entire campaign. Their objective was clear and critical: capture a heavily fortified Iranian island positioned like a fortress, just 12 miles from the mainland coast. This rocky outpost had become Iran's most dangerous forward base in the strait, packed with mobile anti-ship missile launchers, drone control stations, underground bunkers, and a small deep-water port used to launch fast attack boats and mine-laying teams. The island's fall would shatter Iran's ability to threaten passing oil tankers and finally open the narrow choke point that had choked global energy supplies for weeks. The Screaming Eagles were chosen for this high-risk mission because no other unit could deliver thousands of combat-ready troops onto hostile ground so quickly and with such overwhelming force. At their forward staging base deep in the UAE desert, the alert reached the 1st Brigade combat team shortly after midnight. Inside a sprawling operations tent bathed in red combat lighting, Colonel David Mitchell gathered his senior officers around a massive interactive terrain table. The glowing 3D map displayed every contour of the island, the steep northern cliffs housing 2 primary missile batteries, the central radar dome protected by concrete bunkers, the southern port facility, with its camouflaged boat pens and multiple anti-aircraft positions scattered across the ridges. Colonel Mitchell spoke with calm authority as he assigned objectives. First lift secures the drop zones and knocks out air defenses. Second lift brings in vehicles and artillery. We take the port intact and establish a defensive perimeter before first light. Speed and surprise are everything. He walked through wind patterns, exact drop altitudes, rally points, and contingency plans for each battalion. Officers asked sharp questions about enemy troop estimates and possible counterattacks, and every detail was clarified before the room fell silent with focused determination. Straight after the briefing, the paratroopers sprang into motion across the base. In long rows inside brightly lit hangars, soldiers performed final equipment checks with practiced hands. They carefully folded and inspected their T-11 parachutes, strapped on reserve chutes, and adjusted harnesses for the heavy combat loads they would carry. Infantrymen field stripped and cleaned their M4, A1 rifles, applied fresh lubricant, and loaded magazines with a mix of ball and tracer rounds. Mortar sections disassembled their 120mm systems and distributed the heavy tubes and base plates among team members. Anti-armor specialists packed Javelin command launch units and missiles into reinforced drop bags. Machine gun teams carefully coiled thousands of rounds of linked 7.6 2mm ammunition into steel cans while ensuring feed trays were spotless. Every soldier carried extra water, energy gels, individual first aid kits, and night vision monoculars. The atmosphere was intense yet steady. These airborne warriors knew the clock was ticking and failure was not an option. Outside on the vast floodlit tarmac, more than a dozen C-17 Globemaster III aircraft waited like giant shadows. Loadmasters shouted directions as massive forklifts hoisted pallets of ammunition, medical supplies, and folded Humvee gun trucks up the rear ramps. Lightweight 105mm howitzers were carefully chained to the cargo floor alongside crates of food, fuel, and communication gear. In the cockpits, pilots and crews completed exhaustive pre-flight checks, navigation systems, terrain-following radar, engine diagnostics, and fuel calculations for the long flight over water. The paratroopers formed disciplined columns and marched toward their assigned birds, heavy rucksacks bouncing on their backs and weapons slung across their chests. They climbed the steep ramps, stowed their personal gear in the cargo netting, and took seats along the red webbing on both sides of the fuselage. Static lines were hooked to the overhead rail with a metallic click. Jokes and nervous laughter rippled through the ranks as the rear ramps began to rise and seal with a deep hydraulic groan. The powerful Pratt & Whitney engines spooled up one after another, filling the night with a thunderous growl. The heavily loaded C-17S taxied into line and accelerated down the runway, lifting off into the starry sky. The formation climbed steadily before settling into a low-level transit across the Gulf to avoid detection. Inside the cabins, the tension was thick, but the soldiers remained quiet, checking gear one final time and mentally rehearsing their individual tasks. At precisely 0300 hours, the jump command came. Green lights illuminated the cabins. Jump masters bellowed, "Stand up! Hook up! Check static lines!" One by one, the paratroopers shuffled forward and exited into the rushing wind. Hundreds of parachutes blossomed open against the darkness, creating long streams of silk descending toward the island. The first wave of over 1,200 screaming eagles hit the ground hard but fast, shedding chutes and racing to rally points with weapons ready. The fight for the island erupted instantly. Delta Company stormed the northern cliffs under covering fire, destroying mobile missile launchers with precise javelin strikes that lit up the sky in bright orange fireballs. Charlie Company fought its way up the rocky central ridge, overrunning the main radar station and silencing communications with well-placed grenades and small arms fire. Bravo Company sprinted toward the port, securing the docks and capturing 3 Iranian patrol boats before their crews could cast off. Resistance was fierce in places, but uncoordinated, the speed of the airborne assault had caught the defenders completely off guard. As the second wave of C-17s thundered overhead and dropped the remaining troops plus heavy equipment, the tide turned decisively. Humvees, with mounted 50 caliber guns, rolled off the drop zones and took up defensive positions. Howitzers were quickly assembled and began registering fire on remaining enemy pockets. Combat engineers cleared and repaired the island's small airstrip so that follow-on aircraft could deliver even more supplies and reinforcements without delay. By the time the sun crested the horizon, the stars and stripes flew proudly over the captured command post. Iranian prisoners sat under guard in a central clearing, while American forces consolidated their hold. Colonel David Mitchell climbed to the highest observation point, binoculars in hand, watching the Strait of Hormuz stretch out before him. He keyed his radio and told his command group, "The island is secure. Missile sites neutralized. Port under our control." The strait just became a lot safer for everyone except the enemy. The lightning capture sent waves of shock through Iranian high command. Their key stronghold, once considered impregnable, had fallen in under 5 hours. Missile attacks on commercial shipping dropped dramatically within the first day as Iranian forces scrambled to reposition remaining assets. For the first time in weeks, large convoys of oil tankers began moving through the strait under the watchful eyes of American air and naval forces. On the island itself, the Screaming Eagles worked without pause. Perimeter security was tightened with machine gun nests and observation posts on every ridge. Supply lines were established, field hospitals set up, and continuous patrols swept the rugged terrain for any hidden threats. The soldiers who had jumped through the night now stood tall under the rising sun, their faces streaked with sweat and dust but marked with the quiet satisfaction of victory. As darkness returned that evening, Colonel Mitchell addressed the entire brigade over the tactical net. "You jumped into hell tonight and took an island the enemy swore we could never touch. Because of your courage and speed, the Strait of Hormuz is opening again. Tankers are moving, the world is watching. Rest when you can, this fight isn't over yet." Far below, the lights of the first massive oil tankers glowed on the horizon as they sailed freely through waters that had been closed for far too long. The 101st Airborne Division had delivered a decisive blow that would be remembered as one of the turning points in the battle for Hormuz. What Iran had used as a dagger pointed at the heart of global trade was now firmly in American hands. The island belonged to the Screaming Eagles, and with it, the balance of power across the Strait of Hormuz had shifted forever.